Hi, I'm Brittany Rizzo, and welcome back to My Only Friends. On today's episode, I got to meet Josh Plasse. From the big screen to small, Josh's career has taken him from memorable films such as Ride and Wildflower to hit TV shows like The Baxters, iCarly, 911 Lone Star, American Horror Story, and Grey's Anatomy. And now to the page with his first literary release, published by Forefront and distributed by Simon & Schuster, Dust, where the epic adventures and ragtag friendships of Guardians of the Galaxy meet the cunning and betrayal of Game of Thrones, is the perfect recipe for the beginning of a steadfast saga. Josh and I both share the same love for Friends, so this was an incredibly fun conversation. This episode reminds me of the Friends episode, the one where Ross meets Elizabeth's dad. Phoebe writes a book based on Monica and Chandler in her downtime, and Josh and I talk about how writing his new book, Dust, became a comfort to him, much like watching Friends. I love that the TV show Friends brings people together because even though Josh and I had never met before, the second we started talking about Friends, it felt like we were just two old pals catching up, and it made for a really great time. Josh's energy is the perfect pick-me-up. You can get his book, Dust, now available in bookstores. Please enjoy my conversation with Josh Plasse. First of all, I love that your Christmas tree is still up.
Come on.
It makes me so happy. Like, it's so cold outside that it's like, why not? And the world is so heavy. It's like, why not have your Christmas tree still up?
I couldn't agree more. So it's funny because obviously I live in something of a cabin. So I'm kind of campaigning to just keep it up for a while. We'll see if that's shut down or not, but it makes me happy, so why not, right?
Yeah, it just looks so cozy. And also, it's like, okay, so just decorate it for each holiday that's coming up. Why not? Because
Why
it is
not?
such a hassle putting away a Christmas tree.
Yes. It's a disaster. It takes so long. I'm with you. I'm
I
with you.
know. And it's like all the little pine, because I have a fake tree. I assume that's a fake tree also.
Yes,
I've
exactly.
always I've always had a fake tree. One year I had a roommate that had a real tree and it was a disaster because she was not a cleanly person to begin with. And then it was like, our apartment's gonna catch on fire if you don't get this tree out. And
Uh,
but even like the all the pine needles with fake trees is like I'm still cleaning them up months after Christmas. It's a hassle. But
it's
so
a
it's like, yeah, just keep it up. Why not?
keep it up. I'm in your camp. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah.
by the
So
way, where oh, you go.
no, you go.
Two questions. One, where are you based? Question two, this is audio only, right? Or do I need to?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Audio only. Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
making sure. I was like, I need to straighten up here. Uh,
No. I'm
Sweet.
in Los Angeles
Amazing. Amazing. All right,
and
cool.
you're in Nashville?
Nashville. I was in LA for 10 years, but we moved out here about 2 years ago, and so far so good.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that because you're not from LA. Where are you from?
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay, so you're in Virginia Beach, Virginia. How do
Yeah.
you get to LA?
Oof, long story. But ultimately, grew up wanting to be following my dad's footsteps. My dad was a Navy SEAL, so I wanted,
Oh,
yeah. I wanted to do that. Wanted to engage with that entire path. It's a very long story, but ultimately, the short answer is I went to college for Homeland Security and Criminal Justice to kind of do the same thing that he and his father did, and ultimately had a change of heart through a couple of folks I met, and ended up moving to LA when I was 21.
what were the people that you met though that made you make such, I mean, that's a huge career change to go from Navy SEAL to
Yeah.
actor.
Most definitely. It's a pretty radical change. Yeah, I mean the short of it is I was kind of just way too serious in my life and was doing running, shooting, swimming, doing the whole thing, getting ready to go out and prepare for, buds. And ultimately I sorry, let's silence this stupid thing. It's like anytime something fun comes up, I get calls. Otherwise, no one loves me.
That's always how it goes. Always how it goes.
Yes, but yeah, so I go to school, and basically I just found myself being way too serious in life. And I had a couple buddies, one in particular named Adam, who was super nonchalant. I was like, bro, why are you always so happy, And he was like, hey man, be honest, it's the theater. And I was like, no way. So yeah, I kid you not. So I took a theater class, And through that class, met a guy named Joseph Obermueller, to answer your question, who kind of mentored me a bit along the way, and he helped me get out of my shell and just do all kinds of really funny things. Like he had me play board games in front of sorority row and like try to embarrass myself and get out of my shell. I was like, and it worked. It worked. And that sort of helped me, not only become a less serious individual, but kind of learn to take life a little less seriously.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the craft there, fell in love with acting, just studying under him. And I think literally like 6 months later, I started booking some things in Virginia, but there's literally no competition there. So I moved from there and I go to LA, and the rest is history.
What was your dad's reaction to you being like, I'm not doing this thing anymore. I'm gonna be an actor. And what was your dad like, excuse me?
Pretty much. No,
Yeah.
no. He was look, he was very, very accepting of it. He was really cool.
Good.
But it's funny 'cause like I said, he was a teams guy, and his father before him was pretty BA as well. He's pretty badass. And
Mhm.
so for me to tell the two of them, hey, this is what I'm gonna do now. Here's a hard, hard path change. Yeah, there was a moment of like, you sure? But ultimately he was extremely accepting and cool.
And so when you book a few jobs
Yeah.
in Virginia, what was the one that got you out to Los Angeles?
Oh, yeah, good question. So, it's actually something that I didn't book but got close to. It was a Pizza Hut commercial.
Hell yeah.
And I know. Isn't that hilarious? I was like, what? So I booked a bunch of small jobs. Everything there is very small. I got my SAG card there on this pilot called Company Town, where I was essentially a co-star with a couple of lines.
Mhm.
But it was for this VW. Taylor Hackford directed it. He's a freaking legend. So that is
Mhm.
kind of the short answer. But ultimately, I went to the very last round for a National Pizza Hut commercial. And I had started acting like a month and a half before that. And
Mhm.
so it was sort of just through dumb luck. But I got to the end, and the director started giving me direction. It's like, hey, do it this way. And because I had no talent, I was just going on, what I'd learned that last,
Right.
but just being sort of normal, which, it like the best acting, and, of course, the best acting is just living. It's just like this. If this was a scene, we'd be doing a good job right now. And,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
like
you just have to be present and like trust yourself. That's it.
straight up, like
Yeah.
that's at the core of what it is. It's just being human. So I didn't know any tools, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
actors learn tools. So this word's underlined, so I need to do this. And where's my backstory and my moment before? And like all of that is pertinent, and you need to do that, but you need to infuse that into real life and just being. And so at the time, I didn't know any tools. So I just went in there like Josh, and they were like, "This
Mhm.
is awesome." But then when they gave me direction and I didn't have the tools to actually take those direction, I was like, wait. And I ended up
Yeah.
booking the commercial. But that challenge lit that fire in me. And my agent at the time was like, hey, you've booked a few small movies, you've booked a co-star, and now you're here. Like, this is all happening in 2 months. If you want to try it, go try. So that's kind of the short answer.
And when you moved to LA, did you not know a single person?
Literally zero people. Yeah.
That was my experience too. And
No way.
if it's so, I've talked about it on here before. It's like if somebody told me to move to a new place right now and not know a single person, I'd be like, absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way. I couldn't do it. But when
Same.
you're that young, like, between 19 and 21, you just have no fear and you're like, okay, why not? Where
Yes.
like now I'm like, that sounds like my nightmare to have to like go somewhere completely new and not know a single person and like not know like where the closest grocery store is even, just like
Yeah.
so much the convenience of it all. But then you forget that like when we first moved here, we didn't know any of these things.
Literally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had actually, it's funny you say that. I had gotten a book by this guy named Craig Wallace, who was an acting coach there. And I read the book. It's a short read. And I knew literally no one, but I had felt like I sort of knew him because I read his book.
Mm-hmm.
Got there, he was the first place I went, and he was the most accepting guy in the world. And he immediately, brought me in the class down in Santa Monica. And he kind of was just a close friend immediately. But it took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 days maybe to find him and meet him. And that kind of felt like a person, if that makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I didn't know, like, a person I knew, I should say. But other than that, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah. And how did you start meeting? Like for me, my friends now I went into an acting class almost
Okay.
13 years ago, and all those people are still my closest friends to this day. And I mean, they are the 85% reason I stay out in LA now because like we have such our close-knit family friend group here. But like when you first move here, you're just like, how I don't know how to meet anybody. And like you don't know how to trust anybody either because you're like, is this person just like a crazy Hollywood type or do they have like actual good intentions? So I feel very lucky that I've met those people. But how did you find your group out here?
Yeah, honestly, very similar. I would
Hmm.
say acting class number one. I actually went to school when I got out there. I followed up some school and studied screenwriting. So I met some guys in college. But most of my good friends, it's funny you say that. Yeah, was acting class. I think there's
Hmm.
definitely a certain level of camaraderie that's built when you start sort of openly trusting each other and having seen partners, and you're there every week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. And one class in particular was actually Leslie Kahn. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
familiar.
Yeah.
There, I that was the first thing I did when I got there. I did Craig Wallace and I did LesCon, and she had this like intensive program. Again, I think this was 9 years
Yeah.
ago now. She had this intensive program, and it was like a 2 times a week in school, in class, but then every day at home you needed to do 3 hours with a fellow student on a piece. And I was like, oh wow, and it was intensive. It was only for I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks, so it wasn't that
Hmm.
long. But the people that I met in there, one of them is still my business partner today and just a
Nice.
great guy. So very similar to you, I met people through that. And like when you're spending that much time with someone, and then on set, when you do jobs, you have 12 hours a day with people.
Right.
I got a restaurant job immediately when I got there. Met people in the restaurant I loved. So I
Mhm.
think probably the same answer that everybody gives, Susan.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna ask you, like, what were your odds and ends jobs out here in Los Angeles when you were just starting?
Yeah, I did a bunch. So I did that. I taught boxing at the YMCA in Santa Monica.
It's
I know, it's hilarious. So I did that. I worked at a restaurant called Manchego for like 5 years.
amazing.
Um, and what else did I do? Those were the two primary things. I did a lot of small side jobs, but ultimately school took a lot of my time. So I was in school and acting class, and that's pretty much it. The restaurant I'd say would be like the biggest one.
What would you say is like the biggest parallel, like with all the schooling and learning that you did to become a Navy SEAL and all the schooling that you did to become an actor? Was there any commonality in between those things?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question. A lot, I would say. One, this isn't so much a commonality as it is something that benefited me, which would be work
Hmm.
ethic. Um, there's a lot of extremely talented artists who, forget that it's show business, not just show. They don't have like a business wherewithal to really understand how to position themselves or how to, increase their odds. So the work ethic that I took from that background helped me a lot because I hit the ground and was like, all right, I realize I'm probably the least talented person in all of Los Angeles right now. I was like, quite, it's possible that it's quite literal. When I was 20, I was like, all right, let's see. So I took that, I had that fire, I had that work ethic, and then I applied that to like not necessarily an athletic mindset, but sort of where it's like, hey, I'm going to be an artist here when I'm actively in the craft, but every other minute of my life, I'm going to be working to position myself. So I sort of looked at it from that mindset. I think that helped me a lot.
Hmm.
So work ethic would be one, and then number two would be like just psychology, human study.
Hmm.
Is obviously somewhat of a grim subject, but in Homeland Security and criminal justice, like you have to be able to identify certain points that are, borderline assumptions about people, and you have to understand the psychology that would make one do something like this.
Right.
A lot of what they talk about is like recruitment and like, there's obviously international terrorism, but then there's domestic terrorism here in the States. And it's like, how does one fall into and or find themselves in that situation and like what indoctrinates someone to the point where they would actually want to do that? And in acting, I'm sure you've heard this quote. It's like, if you're playing Hitler, you have to justify him. You don't justify, you judge.
Yeah, it's
Well,
wild. Yeah.
it's like, absolutely. So like the whole justification thing of really understanding where like the true depths of where a character might come from, I think that helped me a lot. Just applied psychology, if that makes sense, of like, okay, um, my acting classes would say, the sort of the basic. Justify, don't judge, do this, not this. And I was like, all right, well, I definitely already grasped that. And I had a much easier time of just letting myself play characters that were, for lack of a better word, shitbags. Um,
Hmm.
knowing, hey, this is how I get into this. This is how I might believe this. So I think that helped me a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. It's so true. And but what I will say when you were like, I was the least talented person in LA, one, I don't think that's true. And and two, I mean, going back to your Pizza Hut commercial, I feel like the people who come out here, like you didn't have a lot to unlearn. You know what I mean? You were kind of like a blank canvas. So
Good point.
I feel like that's also why. I mean, I read your bio and you were out here for 5 months before you booked a job.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I might have gotten lucky, but I totally see where you're going with
And was
this.
that Grey's Anatomy?
That one was Criminal Minds, for
Criminal
sure.
Minds. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say you weren't the least talented person in LA if you came out here and got a job 5 months later. Because, I mean, there, I was under the impression like, oh, I booked this job because I did a co-star and I was living in Vegas at the time. It brought me out and I was like, cool, I'm just gonna keep working forever. And then I don't think I worked again for like a year and got a commercial. But it
Hey,
was
that's not
just,
that's fast too, though.
yeah,
You're
it's not bad, but it was just like you really have this, there's such, you never know which way it's going to go. You really don't when you move out here. Some people move out here and book a job within 2 weeks and it's their first audition they've ever had. And some people move out here and they're doing this for 15 years and then become a series regular. But I also
yeah,
think that's why I love it so much, just because you never know when it's going to change.
for sure. It's so true. And everyone's trajectory is not only different, like you said, but also it's peaks and valleys. That those individuals who book really fast, if they aren't ready for that job, sometimes it plummets their career.
Hmm.
And sometimes the person who's been honing their craft for 15 years, like you said, and then finally books that thing, we sound like coaches right now, like acting coaches
Yeah.
trying to, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's why I look back on those coaches and it's really it is a true thing. Those people who've honed their craft for 15 years, who've paid the time, paid the piper when they get on that series regular, well, now they're really good and they're probably also very professional. And I think that's actually more important. But if you're really solid and you're really professional on set, it's pretty easy to make those connections. And then all of a sudden you find yourself working more. Whereas
Hmm.
look at when you're, 22, you just got out here, maybe you're, super attractive young 22-year-old who books some CW show, but you're not that talented yet and you're definitely not professional. Well, one, LA gets its hands on you, Hollywood gets its fingers.
Hmm.
That's hard to deal with at that age. Two, if you're not great, producers are going to see that. The world is going to see that. And sometimes you get that inflated ego and you go to audition for something, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually not that good. And word spread about me. I've seen this probably, I can probably name you. I won't name the people, but I can say
Do it.
five times.
Do it.
I've seen this at least five times. And somebody goes so quick and then they don't work after that. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, to each their
Yeah.
own.
When you first moved out here, like I'm thinking so much about, well, first it's gotta be such a culture shock from where you're originally from to come to LA. And you moved to Santa Monica, was it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So,
so did I. And I didn't love living over there. I also didn't know anybody at all. And it
sure.
was before the age of like streaming. And
Yeah.
I had a TV with a DVD player in it, and
Yeah.
I only owned one movie, and it was I Love You, Man. And I just watched it every day.
That's
Was there
awesome.
something like that for you where you were like, it was like you're like, okay, well, I don't know anybody, but at least I have this playing.
For sure. Like my comfort food television, big time Friends. The show Friends. My favorite show of all time. Total
The
nerd.
right person. I
Yeah.
can literally like, here's my door. Let's see if you can see it.
Oh no. What? That's really good. Did you do that
I'm
intentionally?
Yes. My
Oh,
whole
I love
everything in this
it.
apartment is friends. I mean, let's see if you can see my Lego. All my friends' Lego sets are over there.
Oh my God. You are the best. That's fantastic.
When I heard your favorite show is Friends, I was like, I'm so excited because there's it's interesting because I remember watching Friends growing up, but I didn't become seriously obsessed with it until it got on Netflix. And I'd always been huge on Jennifer Aniston,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't think, yeah, it wasn't until it was on Netflix. I watched it every single night, and I don't think I've gone a day without watching it in at least 11, 12 years.
That's amazing. I am literally right there with you. I am both. happy to say and ashamed to say,
Yeah.
not a day goes by. I'm watching this. I've recently gotten into Seinfeld in spare time as well, and it's
Interesting.
yeah, I highly recommend it. It took me a sec. It's doing a similar thing. It's a similar Friends vibe.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's really so genius. I mean, it truly is. I think it takes aging a little bit and adulting a little bit to really appreciate what they're poking
Mm-hmm.
fun at. But man,
Mm-hmm.
it's good. But yeah, Friends to death for sure.
Yeah, it's so funny because even last night I was over at my friend Chad's house watching the Oscars, and I thought of the one with the ride along. I don't know if you know. I mean, I
Oh,
know
of
them by
course.
titles.
I know all of them. With Phoebe's boyfriend, the cop.
Yes. So I'm
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
in between. They're both my best friends. I'm sitting in between Mickey and Chadwick, and an earthquake happened last night,
No way.
and I literally immediately went for Chadwick, and I was like, "Huh? I always thought I'd go for Mickey." And I literally thought with like it's like the meatball sub. Like
Oh,
I
it's
can't
so good.
believe I went that way. Even though I love them both equally, but I was like, that's so interesting. I went straight for Chadwick first. But
That's so
I think
good.
it's because Chadwick's bigger and he could have protected me if something fell on me. I love you, Chadwick. I'm sorry. But
He's
like
over there.
every single day of my life, I could relate something to a Friends episode.
Same. Literally every day. Yeah,
It
I'm
is
with you.
just the so okay, I have to ask so what I do when I watch Friends, like sometimes I just watch it because I fall asleep to it and I wake up to it in the morning. And it's interesting how sometimes like I mean it'll sync up with my life in a really weird way. Like my best friend's baby shower was happening and I woke up and the baby shower episode for Rachel was on and I was like, this is
Wow.
strange.
Yeah.
But whenever I watch it, I try to watch it from a different character's point of view. Like this is their show about them to kind of
Right.
see it differently. I always end up going to Rachel the most because I think her entire character arc is like the best out of everybody in the show.
For
But
sure.
who are you drawn to the most in Friends?
Definitely a combination. It started as Joey. I
I
always
can see that.
I always thought I was a Joey. And I think I still have most of that and the childlike love and energy for life. But as things have changed in life, I'm somewhere in between him and Ross, I think. I'm somewhere in between that.
That makes total sense, and I get that energy so much. Like it makes total sense. That
Yes.
and arguably, like right when we started, I was like, oh, he has such good, like you have such good energy. Like
Thank
such it's just like radiant and like
you.
happy and positive. Like I could feel that.
I appreciate it. Ditto, ditto.
And Joey is arguably, I mean, he is the best friend out of all of them.
For sure.
He has
For
never screwed anybody over.
That's true. I don't think he has. You're right. Yeah.
He hasn't done anything bad. I mean, maybe he's a womanizer, but like he literally is the best friend. Everybody goes to him. He's like, I'm putting out fires everywhere. But
Yeah.
I he's just so lovable and
Yeah.
hot take. I wanted him and Rachel to be together.
Oh, nice in the end there. Yeah, that would have been
I
crazy.
just think they made like Joey really Ross was too possessive of Rachel and jealous and whiny. Well, Ross is one of my I don't understand the Ross hate. Like people hate Ross. Like on the internet, they are like he is terrible. I think his comedic timing is I mean, he's hilarious and like his physical comedy is so good too.
Yes,
But
agree.
I am a big fan of Rachel and Joey.
Ditto. I love it. I love it. Yep, I'm with you. I follow you.
Someone asked me just recently, what are the best three consecutive seasons of Friends?
Man, that's tough. I think I they're all so good, but I'd just go somewhere right in the middle. Um,
Mm,
Probably like 4, 5, and 6, I think is like heyday Friends, probably.
right.
That would be
I picked the first three. The first three are just too iconic to me.
they are.
And I
They
think the will they won't they of Ross and Rachel is more interesting than when they were actually together.
I oh totally. Completely agree. Yeah,
And
that was fantastic.
Chandler was more interesting in the first three seasons to me. His
Was
one-liners are better.
They were definitely better. He was more funny. I agree. I think the last few seasons are probably the not the worst. They're all great, but they're not as good. Um And yeah, that's a good choice. I mean, the first three are excellent, no doubt about it. Yeah, I think part of it was just like my childhood and loving those and keeping them on and knowing it's not quite ending, it's in its heyday, whereas the beginning
Hmm.
still kind of working out some of the kinks. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I like it all.
It's so funny because I won't watch. Like if the last season is on TV and it's on in the background, I'll watch it. But if the finale comes up, I'm like, change it. I can't watch this. Like it will send me into a spiral. I will cry. Like it doesn't matter how many times I've seen it, I will cry. And like you said, it's like I don't want to know that the show is ending. I don't want to know like that they were sad that this is not going to happen anymore. Like I cannot watch last season. So if I went to a trivia night, I would absolutely crush the first five seasons, probably up until season eight, and then the rest, it's like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, I
What's
totally hear you.
what's
I
your
totally
top Friends episode?
top episode ever. Oh man, that's tough. There's a lot of good ones. I feel like I'll pick one and then I'll regret it later because I'll think about it.
Well, say somebody who's never seen it before, and they're like, which one do you recommend me to watch to sell me on the show?
Probably Joey getting the turkey stuck on his head, the Thanksgiving episode with Brad
Yes.
Pitt. That one's very funny. That one's pretty funny. Him getting the turkey on his head is pretty good. It's pretty classic. I think they'd like that one. I like all the Thanksgiving ones are good. They
Yeah.
play Thanksgiving football in one of them. Christmas ones are always good. Yeah, I'd go with the flashbacks are always funny when you see them in college, but I'd go
Hmm.
with tell them to watch a Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, I'm that's one of my go-tos is the one with Rachel's other sister with Christina Applegate. I think that is one of the most well-written episodes of comedy television ever. Like
I agree.
everything's full circle, the performances are so good. I mean, they just don't make shows like that anymore.
They don't. No, it's sad. They really don't. I yearn for them to do. I got really into New Girl. I really enjoyed New.
Yes.
But there's just something. Also, I wonder if there's inherent and like implicit bias in us because we loved it at our age. But then I
Hmm.
but then I rewatch it and I'm like, no, I think it's just objectively better than most
I
comedy today.
agree. I agree.
I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, there were just, I think some things on New Girl got way too silly. Like it was like so silly that like, okay, this would literally never happen.
Yeah, yeah,
But I love, like, I would argue I like Nick and Jess better than Ross and Rachel. Like, I
yeah.
like their relationship better. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, gosh, I mean, we can talk about Friends forever. But what
We'll
is,
follow up after this. We'll
I
follow up after
know.
this.
So, as somebody who didn't grow up wanting to be an actor, do you remember the moment where you saw another performance that really inspired you and you were like, okay, that's the kind of actor I want to aspire to be, or like that's my North Star?
Totally. I do. And it's the worst answer ever. But I think you'll bear with me and you'll understand. It wa- it was Brad Pitt and Troy, which
That's
is
not a bad answer at all. I thought you were gonna say like Vin Diesel or something.
Vin Diesel. Yeah, Fast and the
I was like
Furious.
bracing myself. There, you can't go wrong with Brad Pitt.
You can't. It's so good. But so first of all, my mom and my dad divorced when I was very young, and my
Mhm.
dad was always overseas for work stuff. And he came back, I think I was like 12, maybe 13, maybe no, maybe 12. And I remember going to my first movie ever with him in the theater, and it was Troy. And
Mhm.
I loved the theater. I'd always loved the theater growing up. I never had like an affinity for acting or figured I would do that in any way because no one from where I'm from did that ever. They're literally just like a bunch of war fighters, and I was like, not going to do
Mhm.
it. Thought it would be in entertainment, period. Um, and so but I love theater. I always went to theater growing up, and I went and I saw Troy, and the theme, which is still, I think, the most fascinating theme to me today, of family versus greatness, like made me think even as a young man because of my dad and like be like literally Achilles was, he's told by his mother before she dips him, she's like, if you go to this war, you'll die, but everyone will know you forever. If you stay home, you'll live an amazing life, but no one will ever remember your name. And
Mm.
I know, and I was like, that's
No
so
pressure.
no fresh, no fresh. And like, the teens is like a 94% divorce rate in that profession right now. And like we don't
Mhm.
get too deep into that, but I think about that and what it just literally demands physically, emotionally, mentally from a time standpoint of a human being and how hard that is on a family. And I remember watching that in the theater, even as a very young kid and identifying like, oh man, I see that and like this is very fascinating to me. And then I watched Brad and what he did, and even though I was very young, I was super emotional about it. And
Hmm.
watching him go through that decision, I was like, man, what I remember leaving that theater and being like, what kind of a man do I want to be? And I think it's because I watched
Yeah.
my dad. So it was his performance, but it was also like the central question that he faced in that film, which again, it's
Hmm.
not the deepest question in the world, but it was very interesting to me. And I remember leaving that and being like, that was the first time I think I understood art on some human level of like, oh, wow, we're asking a question here. And, I think the film is ingenious more than people give credit for it. They don't really answer the question in a good way. You shouldn't. He learns his lesson too late. He gets shot and not to ruin the film, but takes an arrow to the old Achilles and,
I was like, spoiler alert, I haven't seen it.
alert, alert. Oh God. Well,
I
you'll see it.
really, it's one of those, like actually one of my good friends, he is like, we have to watch Troy. We have to watch Troy. Like I have a lot of, because I'm a baby and I don't like watching anything that has violence in it. And my friends are trying to open me up to this world. And Troy is on my list along with Gladiator. I've never seen Gladiator.
Oh, you've never seen Gladiator? That's like one of the best films ever made.
I know. I need to. I need to. I that's an incredible answer though, because that is so like that's really impactful. And that is really I think that's like one of the most impactful answers I've ever gotten on this show. And I love that it had an effect on you that way and that it made you really reflect. And I think that's what a good performance and good film does is make you like tap into these things in yourself that you didn't know you had.
Sure. I completely agree. No, it's
Yeah.
it's really deep and yeah, I mean as all good art should be. So I really appreciate that. But it had very tangible effects. So I mean I don't look like it now, but I used to be very athletic and strong and I won something called Golden Gloves when I was 18 years old, which is like a tri-state tournament. It was Virginia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. And I'd been boxing since I was a kid because of my dad and I was very good at it. And because of him and his genetics, I had, I think, a leg up on people. And
Hmm.
was very serious about it. And I was the youngest person to win that tournament at the time. And there was like a very, very, very serious moment where I considered trying to go pro and make that my life. And that I think, to this day, I wonder what would have happened because I know my work ethic, I know my capability, I know the athletic prowess and my mindset. And, who knows? Who knows? Um, but I remember that year, I'm with my high school sweetheart still, and I had been
Oh,
with her.
congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I had been with her for like 4 years at that time. And the Troy thing hit me where I was like, if I do this, this is life. And like I understood what that was gonna, demand and sort of mandate from me. And, I'll probably not be here because there's no gyms. It's like if you're gonna be that, if you're gonna take it that serious, and you're gonna try to go pro, you gotta go somewhere, probably
Hmm.
Las Vegas or New Mexico or one of these crazy places, New York. And I just had that like I guess I've wrestled with that my whole life of like the demand for family versus greatness of like what kind of a human do you want to be, and it doesn't necessarily only mean family. It doesn't necessarily mean greatness. Like greatness is obviously what is greatness, that's defined by the individual, but that concept of chasing some dream and that being the thing that would destroy your quote unquote family life, or if you're going to be a family man, you're probably not going to have the time to compete to chase greatness. So sort of like figuring that out. I guess my point is after watching Troy 6 years later or whatever, 5 years later,
Hmm.
still a very, very young guy, I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna choose this and go the family way. And
Yeah.
18, not like family and go have kids or whatever, but you get
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
and not chase that.
But I'd argue you can have both. I mean, there's plenty of people in the industry that say you can have both. I'm sure it's a
Yeah.
very, very hard, juggling act to figure out, but I think you can have both. I mean, is she your wife now?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Did she find you in LA? No, she was your high school sweetheart, so she moved out to LA.
She moved down to LA later. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She finished up college and then like 4 years later moved out there.
Is she an actor too?
No, she works in advertisement for Nissan.
The lottery.
I know. I know, right?
That's
Oh,
so funny. I want to talk about Operation 22.
okay.
So, talking about the things that you were super passionate about and growing up with your dad and your grandfather, and, that kind of, it sounds like you have a very strong mentality when it comes to pursuing something you want to do. And not everybody does have a super strong mentality on a day to day basis. So Operation 22 is, please explain that to me so I don't butcher it.
Yeah, no, no worries. No worries at all. So we did it in, well, actually, I did it in 2020. Yeah, so it's Operation 22. Did it 2 years ago. God, time is flying now. It might have been 2023 or the end of 22, but yeah, Op 22. So for, if you don't know, and for those who don't know, unfortunately, obviously, it's a rather grim statistic, but 22 veterans die by suicide every day in the United States.
Mhm.
So I had a group of friends who obviously had a heart to do something about that, and a couple of these guys were film guys. So they followed me with a film crew, and we ran 22 miles per day for 22 days in a row to honor the 22 veterans, and we wore a 22-pound what they call a rucksack. And along that run, we rose money for a group called Stop Soldier Suicide, which is a 501c3 out of Florida, and they're unbelievable. Like they do just insanely beautiful works for the surviving families of people who are, on the other side of military suicide. They, honor the victims. They help their kids. They help their spouses. They help their parents. Whatever it looks like, they do all kinds of things vastly beyond that. And then more importantly, they work with active duty veterans, and they take all kinds of, I'm not going to call them precautionary steps, but, steps to help people who are struggling, whether that be counseling, whether that be advice, whether that be, but literally they do everything. They're just really, really good. And so we rose money per mile that I completed. If you, it was about 500 miles when you complete the whole thing, and someone could like pledge $1 per mile or like a cent per,
Mhm.
$100 per mile if you were crazy, or you could just donate. And so we ran for the 22 days straight. We rose the money, and then we stopped at four different homes along the way. And it was basically from Tennessee to Florida was like the routes that we ran. And in Florida, we did one in Florida, one in Virginia, one here in Tennessee. Where was the fourth? Oh, two in Virginia, excuse me. And we interviewed surviving families.
Mm.
So like one father whose son had died by suicide, a mother whose daughter had died by suicide, and then a wife whose father, and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
They put their stories on camera for the world just to serve as like the educational component so that people could understand how much it affects these surviving families. And that was it. And so we rose money and we tried to raise awareness, and that was the spirit of the whole thing.
That's an incredible thing to do. I mean, there's such a stigma around talking about it, and I think we all know somebody who has been affected by suicide, and and especially veterans, like they're so it's a heavy time for them most of the time. So I just wanted you to share what that was about because I truly think it's an incredible thing to bring awareness to, and it's really, I mean, again, I'm so impressed by your mental strength. Like it seems like you really have a hold on your mentality when it comes to anything you like put your mind to, whether it be acting or becoming a Navy SEAL or boxing or running a marathon. It seems like you have just a lot of clarity, which I don't. So I'm like, where does that come from?
I really appreciate that. Yeah, seriously, I really appreciate that so much. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Man, uh, I first of all, I appreciate that. It's funny because I never see myself as that, like, as that person or that guy or whatever. But I read an interesting quote about like the difference between and I'll butcher the quote, so I know I will, but the difference between like inspiration and dedication, and the dedication just being the everyday process, and like
Hmm.
and finding your why. Like I'm a pretty religious guy. I'm a Christian. I like to see my worldview as hopefully a way of helping the world
Hmm.
and living more like that. And so every single day I wake up and I'm like, all right, who can I like bless today? Like how can I help someone's life today? What can I do
Right.
that's gonna better someone? And I have found that by doing that, I have a little bit of a why every day. And even though, religion generally getting a bad stigma today, that for me is like my engine. That's my why of like, I want to make the world a better place. I want to help people. I want to do something that's different in the culture. And I want to be someone who can not only inspire, but actively give back. And so stuff like Op 22, like you're like, thank you for bringing that up. Stuff like that, even filmmaking as an engine to raise money. Like this next movie I'm doing, I'm dedicating a massive amount of the money, if should there be proceeds, back to Stop Soldier Suicide. And it's like every single day when you're thinking about that why for yourself, like, what can I do to better the world? I think I have found, and this is just my experience for me, but I have a little bit more daily inspiration as opposed to those like that the quote of like, okay, inspiration can be like, oh, I'm so stoked for 3 days, right? And oh, I've got this inspiration right now, yay, or but whatever. But if you don't have dedication every day, then that kind of comes and goes, you know. And
Mm,
for me, it's like finding that why of okay, I just want to make the world a better place, period. And every
right.
single time I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna look at it and like actively have that mission every day. I think that's helped me have the dedication, if that makes sense. For me.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense because I mean, look, we're never going to be super stoked every single day about everything that's going on. So
Possible.
just, dedicating each day to like, okay, and it's kind of like, in AA, it's like just for today. What can I do just for today?
I
Like,
love
just for
it. Yeah.
today, I'll be sober. Just for today, I will listen to somebody else's story. Just for today, I will be happy. And instead of thinking about that giant mountain at the end of it.
Yes. No, that's so, so true. My mom, I mean, she's made this very public. She doesn't care. My mom was in AA for a long time when I was a kid, and I love
Mm,
perspective. You're absolutely right. And it is like just for today. And I think that's beautiful. And exactly like that's dedication. And that's also if you have again, just going back to everyone is different for what their thing is, but having that why and knowing like just for today, who can I help today? Who can I bless today? What can I do today? I don't know. I feel like that is a lasting engine. And I
yeah.
think the way to go.
Hmm. Hmm. What character that you played do you say has stuck with you the most?
That I played, or just
Yeah.
in general.
Well,
Mm,
either. I mean, that you played or one that you've seen.
One that I've seen, Rustin Cole, True Detective season one. I think that's the greatest character ever written in television.
Nice.
Um, that's the one that stuck with me the most. That's a dark, dark, dark character, but
Yeah. Would you
yeah,
say it stuck with you the most because it's one you would want to play?
oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
my dream role right off the bat. Rustin Cole.
Nice.
I need my beard for that one, but
Yeah.
like I can't be looking like this right now. But yeah, that's my dream role for sure. True Detective. And then one that I've played that stuck with me the most. I've got a couple, I would say, but probably in terms of I have a couple that I'm juggling, but I think the one that I just had the most fun on, and I don't know that this is like I did love the character because it was funny and obviously from our talks I love sitcoms.
Hmm.
Um, I had the most fun with Wes and iCarly
Yeah.
because I was just there for a while and it was just fun and it's just like it's a sitcom. I love sitcoms. I love them. I'm a big baby for them my whole life, like we just said, and usually
Right.
everything. I usually play really, believe it or not, via this conversation. I usually play really serious stuff. It was a nice change of pace. So I would go with that. I would go with iCarly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just had a girlfriend work on a sitcom. My best friend Marielle worked on a sitcom and she had always done like film or, 1 hour dramas and she did a sitcom. She was like, "This is amazing." Like it's just so fun. Like it's just fun. And I'm like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I want to work on a sitcom all the time?" It's incredible.
And you're off way earlier. It's just cooler. Like, sign me up. Sign
And
me
you
up.
were a
What
big
about you?
fan of you were a big fan of iCarly.
Oh yeah, I love that. I
So
love that. Yeah.
what was that like? Because I always imagine, like, okay, if I were to book a job with Jennifer Aniston tomorrow, like, how would I keep from not, like, literally shaking of excitement? Like, how would I keep my composure? I don't know if it would be possible.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's a good question. I didn't love it as much as Friends, so it wasn't
Right,
a bad
right.
thing for me, but it wasn't that level of vitalism, but I did really like it. And so it was just awesome, and it was cool to see people who you grew up watching, who you enjoyed and respected, and it kind of gave me that element of like, I don't see this in this way at all. In fact, I think I am actively not there, but it did give me the element of like, oh, dude, like you're here, like you're doing it, which was cool. Like you're literally on a show that you grew up watching, and you might not be a bajillionaire, you might not have the Hollywood Hills house, but like you're doing it. You're living your
Right.
you're creating art that is reflectful of change that you want. Like that's it's a great show. I'm encouraged by the messages they put out. Like I'm not a part of something that I don't want to be a part of. I'm not
Hmm.
surrounded. No, it's like no, I like that. So that was a good moment of like I really just respected everyone and the writers and everything. Where it was like this show feels good, and so I didn't really have that like oh my gosh it's Carly or she was just cool. And
Yeah.
we became friends and still are. And like, it's just, yeah, it was just easy. If I had met to your point, Jen Aniston at that time, I don't know if that would have been different. Maybe, but I think you would be surprised at yourself too. I think when you're at that spot, like when you're there and you see the person and they're there for work and you're there for work, it's just like, oh no, let's do this. Like, let's
I will say, like, I met Courtney Cox in passing, and The first thing I said to my friend, I was like, I am so shocked at how calm I was. Like
I love it.
I cannot believe how she walked past me and I was like, Courtney? Like I acted like I was her BFF. And she's like, "Oh, hey, good to see you." And I was like, We don't know each other, girl, but we do know each other." Like you don't know it yet, but we know each other. But I was just
I
like, "Courtney? Oh my God. Hey."
That is awesome. Was she nice?
Super nice. Super
Good.
nice. I go to the same dentist as her in Jennifer Aniston. So
Oh, that's funny.
it's always I'm like, this is am I gonna see him today? I don't know, but it makes going to the dentist less daunting.
One of these days. Yeah, 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 yeah. One of these days, those stars are gonna cross. That's hilarious.
So funny. Also, I just have to mention Grey's Anatomy because I love Grey's Anatomy so much. So that's just incredible that you got to be. I feel like Grey's
Mhm.
Anatomy is the SVU of LA.
Oh, 100%. That's a
You know what
great.
I mean? And like, I guess I'm like, that makes me feel like shit about myself because I haven't been on it yet. But also, like, how has
No.
this show been on for 19 years and I
Oh
still
my
haven't even been like nurse number four? Okay,
God.
whatever. But
I love it. I love it. You will. I have a good feeling after this. This is the energy now
yes,
you're gonna
let's manifest that. Let's manifest that into the universe. But
but
I
not
just,
nurse four. You're gonna be some. You're gonna be huge. It's gonna be a major role for you on
yeah,
Grey's.
maybe I'll be, oh, well, I always said too, like, it's kind of great to just, I want to just lay on a gurney all day and talk. That's amazing. Like, you just kind of get to chill.
100% great point. So true. It's so funny how many actors say that, like, or if they're in, Criminal Minds or like CSI and they get killed and they're in the body bag and they're like, dude, I made $1,000 to just lay down today and do nothing.
Literally dream job.
Really dream job. Like, you don't have to put makeup on. You don't even see
Nope.
your face. You're just you.
Nope.
Like, it's hilarious.
Which again is like the Friends episode where Joey's like, and they cut my scene.
Oh, good. He runs back and tapes it in his own
Yes.
apartment. Like, I'm gonna shoot this duck.
Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
So good. So
Chandler's like,
good.
you didn't even change your shirt.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm so happy that somebody knows Friends like I do. It's literally the best.
I'm a big fan. Yes.
Okay, before you go, I mean, it could be a good segue of like just like Phoebe writes her own book and nobody knows about it. You have written your own book, but people do know about it. Has it come out yet?
Yes. Yeah. Just came out. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Amazing. And it
Good
is
point.
called Dust.
It's called Dust. I got a thing right here. Ba boom. That's for you. Dust.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
stunning.
I
First of
really.
all, let me ask you though, why did you leave LA to go to Nashville?
Ooh, good question too. A number of reasons. So I started we're very, very small, but I started a production company 3 years ago, and our first film we were going to shoot in Nashville called
Mm,
Ride, which is now on Paramount Plus. If you want to watch that, it's called Ride. We're very proud of it. And
amazing.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're excited. It's a good one. It's good. It's a good film. So we shot that in Nashville, and
Mhm.
at that time, so you probably don't know this, but Nissan's HQ is here, and my wife got a job here, and I was like, oh, she got the job. My film's shooting here. I'm already going to be there for like 40 days or something because we were scouting in addition to shooting. And even though we love LA and have been there for so long, we found this freaking cabin out here.
Yeah, can't
It's
go
like
wrong with that.
it was before the rush. We were able to buy it, whereas like in LA, I wasn't able to yet. So it's just kind of like a number of things, and we were ready for a change of pace. And then from you and I's career standpoint, it's like everything is self-tape now. I just
Right.
fly to. I mean, I'm still in LA like once a month for flights because of whatever it might be,
Hmm.
meetings, director sessions, but everything's on self-tape.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just gonna go there, save a ton of money. There's no income tax here, so from a business standpoint, that's going way better. And
Hmm.
then whenever I need to be in LA, I'll just fly. And so
Right.
far, I haven't regretted it at all.
Amazing. And did you find that this environment was better to write in?
Gosh. Yeah, not even
Yeah.
close. Not even close. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I don't get me wrong. I love my LA, but yeah, it's pretty different. No doubt.
What was the inspiration for Dust? How did this come about?
Basically a lifetime of being a nerd is the short answer.
I
Yeah,
love it.
oh, I'm such a nerd. Yeah, I mean, I just told you Troy is my favorite movie. So, I grew up, reading C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, like some of the great fantasy, Lord of the Rings, obviously Harry Potter and Rowling and all of
Mhm.
just really loved it. But I was like a nerd. Like I was into Robin Hobb. I was obviously into Game of Thrones as a young kid. I just loved it all. And so I also wrote comics as a young man. And so I think that kind of blended of like my love of lore in different worlds. Like, for example, yeah, like, got my map in the book.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
how about that? How about that? So, That's not me. I
That is
hired.
a thick book.
Oh yeah, it's for real. It's a solid
You went
400
to work.
to work. I love it. I have so yeah. So the inspiration is being a nerd. I've been writing this in the background since I got to LA.
I
Literally.
love that.
Yeah, literally since I got to LA. And like I had about 100, I think it was like 187 pages, something like that. Sent it to one of my buddies, and I was probably 23, and he was like, "Bro, this sucks." I was like, "Yeah." So deleted it all, killed the whole manuscript, but took what was working, restarted. All writing is rewriting, and then just kept hitting the pavement. And it was something that I enjoyed. I found very quickly at the pace that I was running in LA. If everyone else is running 100 miles an hour, which they are, you need to be running 200 miles an hour because I was so behind. That's kind of how I looked at it. And so to catch up, I had to run at that pace, which over time is extremely exhausting.
Mhm.
So Gus became my friends in a way. It was like, all right, this is something that I'm just going to do that I genuinely enjoy.
Mm,
And everyone always says this, but they don't really mean it. If nothing ever begets from this, if I don't get anything out of this, I had fun. And like
right.
I really enjoy doing this. And it was a labor of love. Whereas when you're writing a book and you have a deadline, the publisher's here and this, you got to get this and these tweaks and this, like same with the screenplays, it's harder. So yeah, the inspiration was just the way I was, raised, being a nerd, loving it, drawing my comics, and then ultimately finding something when I was in LA that was like a refuge for me of fun and that I enjoyed, and that was it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because I mean, that's when you really love this anything involving creativity, it's just you just want to do it all the time. And when it becomes a thing that stresses you out, then you begin to resent your own dreams, and that sucks to be in that position. So
Totally.
to to know that and to just go like, I love writing this and I love this story. I mean, I'm very interested in it because I very recently in the past couple of years was introduced to Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
and I spent so much time on Google the whole time I was watching it because I was so confused. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've never seen a single episode. Part of
oh,
me, part of me keeps it that way because I like that reaction, selfishly.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'm like,
You,
oh,
yeah,
that's never
though.
gonna get old.
That's fair. That's super, super fair.
But
It
like
won't.
I'm recently like I got into Buffy, which is very supernatural. So like it
Yep.
sounds like that is the realm of what this is,
It,
minus the vampires, I'm sure.
minus the vampires,
What
but
would
yeah.
you say is the heart of this book, like the real story?
Yeah, the heart. I mean, so it's interesting. So because it is such a sprawling and massive like world building epic, it's a lot of things, but the heart is actually a family drama. The heart behind this is it's the book, it's three characters. So well, there's obviously hundreds of characters, but it's three primary points of view. So we follow three siblings in the fallout of their parents' assassination, and they're trying to figure out what happened. One of them gets pinned for it, one of them actually committed it, and the other one receives the news and that the whole thing went down. And so the three of
One
them,
of them committed it?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Juicy.
Found out juicy. And we think we know who it is for a whole time, and then it's a whole, shebang and twists and turns and yada yada. But it's
What
pretty
made
darn
you
fun.
want to write it as a novel and not a screenplay?
Well, I was having so much fun with it as a novel, and
Hmm.
I was very aware that as a screenplay, I wouldn't be able to do anything with it until I was really far along in the industry because of the costs associated. Like,
Hmm.
now speaking of Game of Thrones, it's like just to make something that's, this fictitious, one episode of
Right.
GFU could run you $5 to $10 million, even with
Right.
the earlier seasons. And I was like,
Solid
no,
answer. Good point. Good point.
I was like, no one's gonna take this from
No
me. I'm
biggie.
gonna have a screenplay that no one cares about. But a book, if it's strong enough and a publisher likes it, it's like you do something with it. So yeah,
Right. Just make it part of Reese Witherspoon's book club and she'll take care of it.
and you're done. God, if I could only
This
get into
sounds
that.
right up her alley.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, she loves it. I hear this is what they live for. Yeah.
That's amazing. And now, is there a character in the book who you feel has a voice most similar to yours?
You know what's shocking? As it's so funny. Like there's that meme of writers, and it's like their lead character, and it's like them, like this, like
Yeah.
totally not me in this one. I did not write anyone that's like really resembling myself. The one of the main three, his name is Hendrix. The themes I'm playing with for him are like staying true to yourself in a world that's telling you not to. Uh,
Hmm.
that's a fascinating theme when every sect of culture is like pulling you towards just conformity of what everyone else is doing, staying
Mm-hmm.
true to what you believe in the heart of what you think is going to better the world. I think is a fascinating like concept. And so his character deals with that. Obviously it's fantasy, so it's nothing like our world, but he deals with that. And I think that's like a fundamental theme that I really love in life. So that I would say is probably the closest to me. But to directly answer your question, none of them are really in any way rooted or based on me,
That's not, I like that. I like that. And that's probably fun to separate yourself from
for sure.
all of it.
Yes. Yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
Really
So
creative. That's
I,
really cool. I'm really impressed by this and it's really cool. I really can't, I'm genuinely mean that. Like,
oh, thank you.
I
Yeah,
genuinely
yeah.
mean that. Like, it's just really, really cool that, like, I love that people like just are creative and inspired and I like when people do things for themselves that make them happy and I could tell that this genuinely made you happy and it's I just think it's so impressive like to sit down and write a book. I mean, I can't even sit down and write my grocery list.
I so appreciate you. I know you could if you wanted with this. I really appreciate that. It just takes time. It's just like anything. It just takes time.
Yeah, but I do love what you said. Like it just became your comfort to like go to this other world and create it.
Yeah,
And I think as actors, we have to wait for that to come to us so much. Like we have to wait for the audition. We have to wait to be invited into somebody else's world where you just created that world for yourself, which I think is just really amazing.
great point. Yeah, thank you. No, that was the other thing is it was something that I knew I could tangibly do, and I
Hmm.
wasn't to pun anybody else. Obviously, you know, you're when you're pitching the book, you are, but the writing of it, the act of doing of it was like, okay, I can be productive each day. I can do a little bit. It's making me happy. I love it. If nothing happens, great. But I'm in control of the destiny in that standpoint. Whereas here
Hmm.
in acting, we're just, yeah, we can better our craft all day, but ultimately you're waiting for an audition.
Right.
And when that comes in, great, the competition starts. But until that point, there's only so much you can do to
Hmm.
generate those appointments. So,
Hmm. And now, where can people get this book?
oh yeah, anywhere. You can get it anywhere you want. If you have a Barnes and Noble or a Books a Million or Amazon, please go see it. Bookshop, your indie bookshops. If you're in LA, go to Zibby's Bookshop. I love Zibby. She's the best. She has a bunch of copies over there. Go to Zibby's. She's on Montana Avenue. Uh, or just anywhere. If you have Barnes and Noble, do that. But I want to support Zibby because she's the best. Anywhere else, Amazon
Amazing.
is the easiest, but that's Amazon.
Amazing. Now, before you go, I want to ask you very
Yes.
quickly, what is, I mean, very quickly, it's like the hardest hitting question. What is
Great.
the best piece of advice that you've either gotten or would give for somebody to help maintain their mental health in this industry or, you know, going anything that you've worked into, whether it be like Navy SEALs, like is there something that you learned from doing that that really helped your mental health? And like within acting or switching careers, like what is a piece of advice that has stuck with you or that you have used in each of those situations?
For sure. I have two that I always will go to immediately. Number one is find your why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, compete in something as hard as acting, which statistically speaking is literally one of the hardest jobs in the entire world. Um, Especially now, the emergence of self-paced
Mm-hmm.
cross country, it's literally that hard. So find your why, because if you don't have a solid why for why you're doing it, you're gonna get burned out and you're gonna get really, really resentful.
Yeah.
Uh, so find your why. Number two, in all things, but assuredly in our industry, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you expect overnight success, you're gonna be really disappointed. And I
Yeah.
think just understand that. There's a million and one quotes we could go to, enjoy the journey, not the destination, yada yada. All of it's true. But the two like biggest pieces of advice I have are like find your why. You'd be shocked how many people don't have a why. They're like, oh well, I just wanted to be famous, or like I
Right.
really I just like acting. It's like, okay, do you really? Like what do you love about it? So find your why.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If your why is truthful and honest, and you're in it for the right reasons for your life and betterment of you and others, then yeah, you're gonna freaking make it eventually. Just keep doing
Mm-hmm.
it and just
Mm-hmm.
understand, like you hearkened to earlier. It's a different journey for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I am really, really excited for you. I
Ditto.
can't wait to see how this book takes off. I'm going to manifest that you will get that Game of Thrones money.
Come on. I appreciate
Come on,
that.
Reese
Thank you,
Witherspoon, pick it
Lisa.
up.
Come on, Reese. Come on. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, I love that you're putting you can feel your heart and you can feel your energy behind the decisions you make in your career, which is just a really admirable quality. And I think it's so important. And maybe I just also think you're so much more amazing because you know friends as well as I do. So
Yeah, that's the real thing here.
that's
Yeah.
that's it. That's what
It's
won me
all
over.
right, but he's a friend guy. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Seriously, thank you, Brittany. Same to you. Ditto, ditto. This was
Thank
awesome.
you. And what is your work? Are you working on another film there or?
Right now in Nashville or just in general?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're a couple of things. I'm doing one in New York next month, but my next film for our company is called The Pirate King, and that's
Mm,
Virginia in probably 4 months. But you'll see some news on that one soon. So,
The
if any
Pirate King. Okay, amazing.
Pirate King, yes, yes,
That
yes.
sounds
That's my
fun.
baby. That one's my baby.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Did you write this?
I did. Oh
Oh
yeah.
my God, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll see where it goes. I have very high hopes that it's yeah, we'll see.
Okay, well, I'll be on the lookout.
Please do. Please do. Be on the
I'm
lookout.
very excited for you. This was great. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thanks for having me. Seriously, this was awesome.
And
Yeah.
stay in touch. Like I want to see the Pirate King, okay?
Done. Okay, I'll follow you after this.
Okay. Have such a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.